To the Indians living along the Columbia River in Oregon and Washington, or those in Canada, there is no need for proof of Bigfoot. Sasquatch has been a part of Indian lore as long as they've inhabited this land. Some anthropologists believe that the creature could have come to the northwestern part of the United States along with the Indians, across a land bridge that once connected Siberia to Alaska. The newcomers to this country have seen Bigfoot in an area ranging from Northern California to southwest British Columbia. To the Indian, Bigfoot carries a mystical significance. Sometimes it's difficult to tell where myth ends and reality begins. In our modern world of concrete and steel, we're far removed from the Indian lore of Bigfoot. It's hard to imagine any corner of our crowded world where a giant man-like creature could roam free. Yet there's persuasive evidence that Bigfoot is real, and that urban man may be close to his first meeting with this living legend.
This is a cast of an individual that's very obviously crippled. And I studied this at some length and found these two bulges on the outside of the foot. Anatomically, they have to correspond to a couple of gaps in the bones on the foot themselves. And the bulges in a normal human foot expanded to this size would have been here, but they're shifted forward. Well, anatomically, this means that the ankle weight is shifted somewhat forward. It's not just a gigantic human foot. It's the leverage has been redesigned. And this happens to be redesigned just exactly the way it would have to be for a 800-pound animal. So if the idea of that this was faked by somebody isn't quite so simple. If it was faked, it was done by a human anatomist.
"100 old-growth trees fell at the same time. It was determined by the local media to be a wind shear based on shaky evidence. There have been recent investigations, and they still call it a wind shear event. It's the only thing that is truly scientifically plausible. Recent reports and TV shows examining this anomaly have agreed with the wind shear determination. Here is the rebuttal argument to that case. It has been reported by local media and national media as a natural tree fall event. Subsequent reports confirm this analysis. But let's take a look. The trees fell mostly across the road, and that again is significant. Take a look at the size of these trees and how some look like they have been twisted. They all broke or were twisted near the root, a couple feet above the root section. Typically, in a windstorm, the break will be higher up or the tree will be unrooted. The evidence for the windstorm explanation, the weather graph shows that the front was moving in at 1 a.m. and the large winds did not come until later in the morning. An overlay of the weather map and the tree locations near Lake Quinault show that the direction and the consistency of the trees being felled across the road was inconsistent with the scientific data. This is typical of their behavior, to block a path or road they don't want people to come down. It's a way of marking their territory. The sonic data gathered at the time showed no earthquakes, a localized event, and it happened all 100 trees were felled at the same time. Now, would that happen with the wind event? No. It had to be, in my opinion, a team of Bigfoot blocking the path to a location at this time for their own reason. A meteorologist from the University of Washington wrote an abstract about this event. He noted that there's no other damage reported in the area. He concluded that it was a rotor event with a strong shear. This was a rare, unusual occurrence. They have 100 old-growth trees, 4 to 5 foot in diameter, coming down in the middle of the night with no large wind gusts, no earthquake activity. This is in the area known to be inhabited by Sasquatch. Recently, it has been reported that the records cannot be found, but the records are there, and historically there is more. The Native American tribe that tried to live there, and the Spanish who conquered them, both were driven out by a powerful natural force. The story of Portlock, the Alaska ghost town allegedly abandoned because of a killer Bigfoot. Portlock, or Port Chatham, was a thriving fishing village with a cannery on the site of the village. Before it was abandoned, it was located in an isolated part of the Alaskan coast. Reports came in of men going into the wilderness for hunting and mining and disappearing. Bodies of men were found in the bay just north of the town. There were reports of a wild man in the woods. That is why Portlock was abandoned. On a remote island in Alaska, there are trees that have been inverted upside down, pounded into the ground with the roots sticking up in the air. It is noted by the natives this is a sign of the hairy man. There is no other explanation. This is on the side of a mountain with no road access. The tree was not taken from this spot, or you would see the root section that had been torn out. There's no sign of machinery and no sign of man. The large tree was inverted and placed upside down. There is a gondola in British Columbia that has had its cable cut 2 years in a row. At around midnight, the cable was severed by some unknown force. A security guard had been hired, but they could not find a culprit. On their thermal camera, they did catch a figure. This looks like a Sasquatch. Look at the lack of the neck, the large shoulders, and the huge proportion, and the apparent lack of clothing. These 4 inexplicable events are historically and scientifically documented. It shows undeniably that these beings do exist in the Pacific Northwest.